Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome back to episode 2 of Planet Coaster Miniatures, and today we are continuing work on Fallen Rocks. My B&M invert, kind of hyper, kind of buried, that we started work on the last episode. So today we're going to be working on some terraforming. As you can see, I'm just trying to build up the mountain a little bit around the dive loop, make it look a little bit more natural because, right off the bat it wasn't looking too realistic. And then I'll also be spending a lot of time this episode working on a waterfall that's going to go there. I really like to include waterfalls. I'm a big fan of waterfalls, so I'll be including one in this episode, and you can see right here that I am introducing a river at the top just to make it look a little bit more natural. You generally don't have water falling out of the blue, so I'm using the old trick of using a river rapids ride to create a river right here. So this is going to actually take me quite a bit of time in this episode. I felt like calling this episode that damn waterfall just because it took me so long to get it right. And one of the reasons for that is because this is actually the first time I've used any of the pieces that we were given in the new adventure pack. I hadn't played Planet Coaster for a little while, maybe 6 months or so, so it had been a while since I had done anything in it, and I was trying to get back in the swing of it, and I went ahead and downloaded the adventure pack, and I knew that it came with these new waterfalls, which looked pretty good actually, but it just took me a minute or two to get the hang of it. So when I first built this thing, I was using some of the splash effects at the bottom, and you can see here this just really looks really ugly. So I left this part alone for just a few minutes. I was just trying to block out where I wanted the water to be falling and so forth, and then I went back to work on the top of the rocks, the landscape, and so forth. Excuse me. This is going to end up looking way better than it does right now. I mean, obviously that's what always happens in Planet Coaster, but we're going to be burying the water some more, putting some landscaping up here and so forth. So it'll by the end of the episode, this will definitely look much better, this portion of the ride. And that was one of the things I actually wanted to touch on today. I don't know if this happens to you all. It happens to me quite frequently, though. I'll get a great idea for a new ride, or I'll have an idea of where I want to take a coaster or something like that, and I'll start on it, and I'll be like, I don't like this. It doesn't look good. I don't know what to do. And this was really happening a lot with this one. I like the idea, the story I have for the ride, which I elaborated in the first episode. I like that a lot. I like the idea of the setting, but I was just feeling kind of uninspired, and I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. But you know what you have to do in that situation is just kind of persevere, keep trying things until you find something that works. So I kind of got into that position towards the end of this episode. You'll see it starts to come together a little bit more. I started to get an idea of what it's going to look like when I started putting up a wooden fence. And I didn't make a custom fence. I've made plenty of custom fences in my time, but in this episode I just used one of the new ones from the adventure pack. One of the things, I know there are lots of creative people out there who do really nice things, and sometimes the custom fences and the custom light structures and so forth that people make look great, and then sometimes I think they're just making a custom fence just to make it custom. So I'm not hating on anybody. I appreciate all the work that everyone does in this game because there are some really good people out there, but I just felt like the fence that was available worked fine for my purposes, so I used that. But I did make a custom waterfall here, so get back to my point of perseverance. Just sometimes you have to just keep going and keep throwing things at it until you see something that works for you, and then you roll with that. So you'll see that I wasn't happy with the waterfall at first. I thought it didn't look very good. I did have the idea that I wanted the water to continue down here so that the coaster is kind of following this natural stream. I don't know if you all can hear all this noise in the background, but my cats are going wild. I don't know what's wrong with them. So anyway, it comes down. The waterfall follows a natural pattern, whereas it falls from somewhere high and it continues on down. And I like the way the coaster is following it down. It kind of gives this feeling of you're rolling through this canyon with this water, and I really like that quite a bit. It looks pretty natural to me, in terms of as natural as anything can look in Planet Coaster. One of the strengths of this game is just the beauty of it. I think it's incredibly easy to make things look very beautiful in this game, and that's we have to give props to the developers for that, because they've just created so many pieces that blend so well together, and so many biomes, and it's really hard to do something that's just flat out ugly in this. Which is brings me to another point. I think I might actually challenge myself, because I've had an idea to do a coaster, a sort of post-apocalyptic. Why can I not say apocalyptic? A post-apocalyptic coaster. And I know a lot of people have done stuff like that, but I've wanted to do something like that. And I was thinking about doing it either in No Limits or in Planet Coaster. And I think I'm leaning towards Planet Coaster, just because it would be much easier to create the landscape and the buildings and so forth in Planet Coaster than would be in No Limits, obviously, because I would have to create them in SketchUp or Blender or something like that. So I think it would be very difficult to actually make something look ruined in Planet Coaster. I know that the adventure pack has given us some falling apart pieces where rocks have fallen and so forth. So I don't know. I might give that a try. Once we finish this, we'll see. I definitely have an idea of what kind of ride I want to do with that. So we'll see what we do about that. So for now, I'm finishing up this waterfall, this river bed right here. Just trying to put some scenery in now. Another thing that I did sort of change was, originally I was just going to use conifers, that being pines and firs and so forth in this, because I was thinking that this should be set more along the lines of a northern climate. But if you've been following me for any time, you know that I pretty much go wild with the trees and so forth. You can never have too many trees, in my opinion. I love a ride that's in the woods. So I didn't like the coverage that I was getting with just conifers. So I decided to go ahead and add some deciduous trees in here too. So I do put some elms, and I believe what else did I put? Poplars and so forth. So these are not exactly trees that I don't think they would all grow in the same area necessarily, all these species, but they're close enough. That's one thing, though, I generally do try to be careful with in when I'm creating a landscape, is to use trees that are likely to grow in the same region, because, and I have seen people do this where they just put like any kind of tree, and it just looks so improper to me to have like a conifer beside a palm tree or something like that. So that's one thing you want to be careful of. And here you can see I started working on the fence. I went ahead and kind of buried it a little because it was a little bit too tall. But this was the look I was going for. I said in the last episode that I wanted something like an Ewok village or something like that. Something that looks similar to that. And this is what I was going for, this kind of wooden structure tied together. There'll be vines hanging and that sort of thing. So once I went ahead and buried this fence, I thought, you know what, that looks absolutely fine. That gives me the kind of look that I was wanting to achieve with this. And so this is where I started to feel a little bit more inspired about what I was doing here. So I went ahead and painted the path, and it's pretty much going to be the end of the episode here in just a few minutes. So I will include a POV, one more POV, and that'll probably be the last one I do before the end of the ride, or excuse me, before the end of the series. I'll wait until we finish everything else up, and then I'll show the POV one last time. So until then, I hope you enjoy this episode. If you have any ideas or suggestions or anything, comments like that, that's great. Otherwise, enjoy the ride, and I will talk to you next time.